Okay, this week is about stress test. Uh, it's a very large topic. I won't cover all of it because there's so much history behind it. Yeah, in fact, I won't talk about history at all. But for those of you on the call, Google it. Started long time ago, and many changes over the years with the introduction of the stress test. But I will show you how it works on the app. So this is where it is. It's there's a card called stress test. If you don't see it on top, of course, you can customize your screen to bring it on top. For this demo, I just put it right on top for myself. And we're going to go over the features. What does the stress test tool do? Well, it's simple. It calculates the maximum mortgage at the qualifying rate, given income and expenses. So as you know, the stress test wants you to qualify at a higher rate than your contract rate in order to show that even if rates go up, you can still manage to pay those payments. However, there's something called the GDS TDS, which also does the same thing. So stress test sort of works with that. Now, on the tool, there's a few customizations you can do. I will go through them. There's a custom GDS TDS setting that you can do, and there's insurability settings, rental income settings, and you can also exclude home expenses from TDS. The mortgage brokers agents on the call, they know what I'm talking about. But I'll show you how it works on the app. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to sort of tell you how it works, how the stress test, all that work. And I'm gonna go very brief through this for those of you who don't know. So let's say you have an income of $100,000 and your gross debt service, your GDS, is 39%. That means 39% of your income can be used towards home expenses, including mortgage payments. So if you do the math, 39% of $100,000 annual is $39,000 per year. That's how much you can spend at most on home expenses and mortgage payments, which works out to be $3,250 per month. That's 39,000 divided by 12. Very, very simple. So that's the first step. Now we know what our allowance is, 3,250. Where can we spend this money? Well, we can spend it on mortgage. That's your principal and interest payment. You can spend it on your property taxes. You can spend it on your heat expenses and condo fees, 50%. I don't know why it's 50%, but 50% of your condo fees can be also paid with this allowance. So let's say your property taxes are $200 per month and your heat is 50. It's not a condo, so zero condo fees, which leaves us with $3,000 per month on just mortgage. So bear that in mind. You have $3,000 to spend on your mortgage. Now let's move on to the next step, which is the rate. So we know that we can only spend $3,000 per month on our mortgage, and our contract rate is 2.25, but the stress test rule says you need to add 2% to that, and that's the higher amount, the 4.25. But that's not enough. You also need to compare it against the Bank of Canada qualifying rate, which is currently set to 5.25. So whichever one is higher, that's the rate you have to go with. And turns out 5.25 is 1% higher. So we're going to use that. So we know what our mortgage amount is, and we know what the rate we have to go with. All you do is plug it into the simple mortgage calculator, and you move the slide around until you get exactly $3,000 mortgage payments. And that mortgage amount is the maximum mortgage you can afford, $503,425. So what the stress test tool does is simplifies all that plus more. So I'm going to show you how that works in the stress test tool. Okay. Sneak it outside here. All right, so this is the stress test tool, and we're just going to actually verify this. So let's get started. I'm going to go right in, and I'm going to start a new scenario because I previously had all these things there. So I'm going to use this scenario icon on top, and I already prepared a week 10 scenario. So I'm not going to use it. I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to use the options menu here, and I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to use it. So you can see previously I have everything set to 0 because I wanted to plug those things in. So we said we had $100,000. Just plug it in. So without any expenses right now, if I had $100,000 per year, my income, and no expenses whatsoever, I would be approved for $545,000 mortgage payment. That's at the 39% GDS. But let's see what happens if I add in a $200 property taxes, which is located right here. So all I do is just tap on the monthly part here and put in 200. And now the amount actually is lower because of course I can't spend the full $3,250 towards my mortgage. Now I can spend about $3,050. But now heat comes in with $50, which brings my mortgage payments, you can see $503,004, which matched perfectly. So the beauty of the stress test is that you can do this so quick without going through all those different calculations of figuring out how much income to use and then what are the expenses. You can simply use the slider even. You can change your property taxes. You can even add in condo fees and it will use 50% of that, of course, and you heat. And if you have credit card payments or car payments, you can just add it right in here. So let's say I have a $250 car payments. So that's your maximum mortgage that you can afford at 39% GDS, which is 39% of your income. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. That's sort of the core feature of the stress test tool. It just gives you the maximum mortgage given this feature. Now let's go into a bit of customizations.